Imagine walking alone in an empty school at night. Every hallway silent, every classroom dark. Except something is still moving inside. This is the true story of a school custodian who swears the building he worked in was haunted. And tonight, you'll hear everything he experienced, alone, after dark. I worked as a custodian at a middle school for nearly 5 years, usually on night shifts. I'd clock in around 10 p.m. and leave just before the buses rolled in at sunrise. At first, I liked the job. No noisy kids, no teachers, no complaints. Just me and the quiet. But over time, I realized the school at night wasn't quiet in a comforting way. It was different. The whole building felt alive. Doors creaked, lockers groaned, pipes rattled. And when you're the only one there, every sound seems louder than it should. The worst place was always the basement. The school was old, built in the 1950s, and the basement stretched beneath half the building. It wasn't finished like classrooms upstairs, just cold concrete halls, storage rooms, and pipes dangling from the ceiling. Old desks, dusty books, broken furniture were shoved into corners. The smell of damp concrete and mildew hung in the air. Fluorescent bulbs flickered and died, so I always carried a flashlight. One night, about 2 years into the job, I went down there to grab folding chairs. The stairwell creaked behind me as I descended. Only a few bulbs lit up, leaving most of the hallway swallowed in shadow. The first storage room was stacked with desks. The second had a rusted door that groaned like something alive when I forced it open. I began pulling out chairs when I heard it, a faint scraping sound, like someone dragging their feet slowly across the concrete. I froze, flashlight cutting through the dark. Nothing. My chest tightened, heart hammering in my ears. I shook it off, stacked the chairs, and headed for the stairs. Then, a rush of cold air brushed across my face. Impossible. There was no draft down there. When I returned, the chairs I'd stacked were different, not the way I'd left them. And then came a sudden bang, loud, metallic, from deeper in the hall. I spun toward it, and that's when I noticed a classroom door halfway open. I knew I had shut it earlier. I called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" Only silence. I stepped closer, flashlight beam trembling. The air felt heavy, pressing down on me. Then, that sound again. Slow, dragging footsteps on the concrete floor. Not mine. Behind me. The hair on the back of my neck rose. I didn't wait. I bolted, sprinting up the stairs, slammed the basement door shut, and locked it. I didn't go back down that night. Even now, whenever I hear that sound in my head, those dragging footsteps, my stomach twists. Another time, I was working the night shift at a different high school. It was a massive building, 4 stories, with an auditorium that felt like its own world. Big stage, 3 levels of seating, heavy curtains hanging from the rafters. In the day, it was normal. At night, though, it felt wrong. Shadows clung to every corner. Sounds bounced strangely, echoing in ways they shouldn't. One night, I went in to clean early. As I crossed the stage, I heard slow, deliberate footsteps. On the stage. I swung my flashlight toward the curtains, but nothing. Then, a whisper. From the balcony above. My name. I looked up, but the seats were empty. Still, the boards above me creaked like someone was walking, pacing slowly back and forth. My skin crawled. I backed toward the exit, and just before slipping out, I swore I saw the curtain move, like someone had just brushed past it. I never went back in alone again. Later, someone told me a drama teacher had collapsed and died on that very stage years before. Some people swore he never left. But the one that truly unsettled me happened at yet another high school, on the third floor. That wing was always deserted. Old classrooms, mostly storage. I was mopping late one night when I noticed a door cracked open. I knew I had shut it earlier. Inside, a box had been dragged to the middle of the floor. I stood frozen in the doorway, listening. Then I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Deep, slow breathing. As if someone was holding their breath, trying not to be noticed, but couldn't hide the sound. I slammed the door and bolted down the stairs, calling my supervisor. He came up with me minutes later, but of course the room was empty. Nothing out of place. He laughed it off, but when I told an older custodian, he just shook his head. He said years ago, a kid once hid out in that very room overnight. Nobody knew why, but the sound of that breathing never left me. Over the years, I stopped brushing these things off as imagination. I avoided the basement. I refused to go into the auditorium alone, and I never again mopped that third floor after dark. People told me I was tired, or that the building was just settling. But I know what I heard, what I felt. And sometimes, when I lie awake at night, I swear I can still hear it. Slow, dragging footsteps across the floor, following me. The custodian never worked a night shift again. He still swears those halls, that basement, and that stage are not empty after dark. So if you ever find yourself alone in a school at night, remember, sometimes the building isn't as empty as it seems.